First, welcome to this conference room. And I always tell my colleagues and students I have two supervisors, or one is my PhD advisor, another one is Professor Kai Fong Lee, because basically I learned antenna from him. So today we are very happy, and we have one of the top antenna experts from the world to come here to share his experience, not in antenna design, but in his administrative experience. As we know, Professor Lee received this John Cowles Antenna Award, which confirmed his international status in antenna technology. His invention of the U-stop patch antenna basically widely used, not only in US and in particular in mainland China. They use it for the Beidou antenna receiver systems. And Professor Lee was our first head of department back to 1984. And he just served 1 year, and then he moved 1.5 more than that. He hired me, and then the first day I joined the department, he told me, "Oh, I'm going to leave." It was a shock because I want to learn something more basic. He just told me I have to leave. But anyway, throughout the years, we still have, through internet, through email, we continue our collaboration. And we have more than, I think, 100 papers jointly published.
Probably 150.
150, more than that. Yeah.
And a book.
And one book, yeah. So, Professor, after moving to the US, he served as department heads in different departments, including University of Missouri, Columbia, University of Toledo, and then he moved to University of Mississippi as Dean of Engineering. So he's well experienced in administration. I still remember he always tell me that to be an administrator is very easy. It's just common sense, but I don't believe that. So we'd like to learn more from him. Without further ado, let's welcome Professor Lee.
Thank you very much, Professor Lok. The reason I said 1.5 years is the director at that time wanted me to start working half a year before he paid me. So that's why, which is true. They don't pay me until July, but I start working in February. Okay, since I left Hong Kong in 1985, I have been very fortunate to be able to come back to visit City University no less than 2,000 times. Every time I was asked to give a talk on antenna design. And this time I told Professor Lok that since this department has numerous visitors coming to give technical talk, so perhaps a long technical talk, but related to engineering, may be a welcome change. I don't know whether that's true or not. But anyway, he seemed to agree. Okay. And that's why this talk is non-technical. And that's when my wife is here. I told her that she can probably understand what I try to say too. Now, let me show you the outline of the talk, introduction, and so forth. Now, why do I want to talk about leadership in an engineering department? To answer this question, a rather lengthy introduction is necessary. As mentioned by Professor Lok, I took up the position of Dean of Engineering at the University of Mississippi, nicknamed Ole Miss, in 2001. Ole Miss has a relatively small engineering school compared to our sister institution, Mississippi State University. However, we have a tradition of producing leaders in the profession. For example, William Parsons, he had a very successful career at NASA, rising to be the director of NASA's John F. Kennedy Space Center in 2005. Before that, in 2003, I believe, he was chosen to be the person to fix the Columbia Department of the Space Shuttle program. As you know, the Columbia shuttle exploded. So they want Bill Parsons to fix the problem. And you may recall that in 2005, the shuttle program was back in flight with the successful flawless launch of the Discovery shuttle and also the safe return. So as the Dean of Engineering at that time, I like to brag that when NASA has the space shuttle problem, he chose an Ole Miss engineer, not an MIT engineer, to fix the program. Okay. Another prominent graduate is John Prados, who was the former president of ABET, better known as the former president of Accreditation Board for Engineering Technology, better known as ABET. That's the body that accredited all engineering programs in the U.S. Any department head, the most worrisome thing for him to do is to get accreditation from ABET. And John Prados was the former president, and he was one of the architects for the so-called ABET 2000 accreditation criteria, which emphasized outcome and assessment rather than bean counting, how many engineering science credits, how many engineering design credits. So that was the old criteria. So he was one of the architects for the new criteria, okay? And then another example is Paul Miro, who was the former chancellor of Louisiana State University for more than one decade. Now, there was a joke that if you go to an engineering firm in Mississippi or surrounding regions, you'll find that many graduates are from Mississippi State, but most of them report to their bosses, who are Ole Miss engineers. Okay, so we emphasize quality rather than quantity. What is it in Chinese?
專質不重量。
重質不重量. Okay. All right. Now there are two aspects of the Ole Miss engineering program which our graduates really like. One is the small class size, which enable very good interaction between professors and the students. Another is that Ole Miss has a strong liberal arts environment. So our engineering students have plenty of opportunities to interact with students of other backgrounds. And this really molds their character. However, our alumni felt that a formal introduction to the ideas of leadership in the engineering curriculum will better prepare them in their careers. The importance of leadership in engineering is beautifully conveyed in these two quotes. An engineer is hired for his or her technical skills, right? Is fired for poor people skills and promoted for leadership skills. So is that enough to introduce leadership ideas? I guess so. The other thing is technical ability multiplied by leadership ability equals the positive impact on society. So if your leadership skill is double, that means your impact will be double. So it is in this background that I, working with our alumni, come up with the idea of a course on leadership for our undergraduate students. The course was first offered in 2002, and it has 3 components. The students are required to attend weekly invited lectures by engineering alums who are leaders in their field, as well as leaders in other professions, including our chancellor. And students are required to write a report on 3 of the invited lectures. So that is the first component. The second component is that the students are required to study 2 books on leadership. One is this one by Dr. Stephen Sample, which I will say a few more words in a moment. It's called Contrarian's Guide to Leadership. And then another one by John Maxwell called Developing the Leaders Within You. And the third component is that we actually give tests on the 2 books that they were assigned to study. Now, as far as the invited speakers are concerned, they are asked to speak on some aspects of leadership from their perspective. For example, our Vice Chancellor for Relations is a professor in communications. So he actually came to speak on oral communication techniques, including hand gestures. Okay? Okay. Now, it should be mentioned, okay, as is the case with every course, students were asked to give their opinion at the end of the course, and most of the comments were positive. A major complaint is that the class is held on Friday afternoons. They want to change that. But I don't think we did that, and the course has continued to the present day. Now it should be mentioned that around that time we conceived the course, not many engineering schools offer a course on leadership. Most of the leadership courses were offered in business schools. One of the few that offer a leadership course for engineers is the University of Southern California. In fact, that course was offered by the president of the university, Stephen Sample, who authored one of the books I mentioned. And he is an electrical engineer. And he, in conjunction with this guy who's recognized as a leadership guru, Warren Bennis. Now, if you go to the web, you will find that many engineering schools are catching on and offer leadership programs. If you go to MIT, there is something called Golden Engineering Leadership Program. If you go to look at the University of Toronto, there is something called Leaders of Tomorrow, Engineering LOT. Okay. Now, in the next 40 minutes or so, I will talk about some of the things I learned about leadership. It doesn't mean that I practice those things very well. And it also doesn't mean that I have ever been an effective leader, okay? So that's the title, what I learned about leadership. Don't consider anything else. Okay, now, let's begin with the definition of leader and leadership. There are different variations, but basically they are the same. A leader is someone who has identifiable followers over whom he exercises power and authority through his actions and decisions. This is a leader. Leadership is the ability to have a clear vision of what is to be accomplished and to inspire and influence others to work toward the realization of that vision. Now, most people exercise authority and influence by virtue of the position which is either appointed or elected. Very often, one hears the difference between managers versus leaders. And the common thing is this quote: managers do the right thing, while managers do things right, and leaders do the right thing. This is by this guy, Warren Buffett, considered to be a guru on leadership. And then another famous guy who wrote a book that sells millions of copies is Stephen Covey. He says a manager is skilled at making sure people can climb up a ladder successfully. But a leader makes sure that the ladder is leaning up against the right wall. Well, this actually begs the question, what is the right thing? What is the right wall? Now, if a leader follows the teaching of Confucius or Plato, which emphasize the good side of human being, then they would have a value of systems from which all life is judged. For example, the golden rule, I'll use Chinese, 己所不欲，勿施於人, is the cornerstone of the values for Confucius and Plato. If a leader follows their teaching, he's probably a good leader. Okay? However, Machiavelli, anybody know Machiavelli? He's an Italian guy, and actually his nickname is the devil because he recognized the real nature of human beings. If you're interested in the end, I have a bunch of quotes by Machiavelli. So he recognized the human nature as they are, not the ideal thing which Confucius and Plato seem to be emphasizing. So if you follow Machiavelli's approach to leadership, it includes elements which seem to be devious, but effective. So a leader who takes this approach is an effective leader. But is he a good leader? For example, Stalin. Stalin, everybody from what history says, is an effective leader. But is he a good leader? I guess it depends on who you ask. Okay. So from the above brief comments, you can see that leadership is an art and not a science. Nevertheless, there seems to be a number of basic things that people agree that a leader must possess. And the bad news is that persons with a liberal arts education are more exposed to leadership concepts than someone with an engineering education. That's the bad news. The good news is that we engineers, although we are not exposed to leadership concepts in school, we can always pick them up on our own. So that's the good news. The other way doesn't work. Can you imagine a liberal arts major picking up Maxwell's equation? Quite impossible. Okay, so that's the good news. However, traditionally, we are not really exposed to these ideas until we are in our career. So the idea of introducing leadership concept in the undergraduate curriculum is maybe to jumpstart the students' awareness in this thing. Now it is convenient to divide what I'm going to talk about from now on into two categories: personal qualities to make an effective leader, and actions leading to, and oh, this I have done already. And so I'll divide up into two kinds of presentation. Personal leadership, which are individual qualities brought to or developed on the job. And then organization leadership means a series of actions which a leader takes to lead the organization to success. Under personal leadership are a number of qualities. The first is hard knowledge and skills, which includes knowledge in your chosen field, communication skills, both written and spoken, as well as a liberal arts education. A person whose ability in these areas are usually measured by the intelligence quotient, or IQ. So if you have a high IQ, that means you either have very good knowledge in these areas, or you can learn these things very well. The second category of personal leadership qualities include personal vision, integrity, positive attitude, and something called emotional intelligence. And under this broad heading include personal vision and goals, integrity, positive attitude, and then a set of qualities nowadays known as emotional intelligence, or EQ. This is under IQ. If you have a high IQ, it means you have the hard knowledge part very well covered. But now there is something called EQ, emotional intelligence, which consists of self-awareness and self-management, social awareness and relationship management, which we'll elaborate a little later. So that is under personal, that's under personal leadership qualities. And then organization leadership means the series of actions that a leader takes in order to lead the organization to success. And it involves a number of actions: building a strong team, articulate a shared vision, plan and prioritize, and then communicate a mission, lead by example, develop leaders, seize opportunities and take risks, work in teams, persevere, evaluate performance, and the thing I list last here is get along with your boss, but know what hill you are willing to die on. What does that mean? Well, we'll come to this later. So the rest of the talk are examples and discussion on the personal leadership qualities as well as the organization leadership. So depends on the time, we may be able to cover all of them, or I just select some that I can give examples. Okay, first, hard knowledge and skills. The first one is knowledge in your chosen field. Well, that is rather obvious. Take the position of a department head or dean. Even though it involves many administrative duties, you must have accomplished quite a record in your field in order for the professors to respect you and be effective. Otherwise, you just cannot be effective as a department chair or as a dean. Now, I think this is such an obvious thing that I don't really need to elaborate it further. The next thing is communication skills. both written and spoken. Both of these are extremely important for landing a position in leadership, as well as practicing it after you obtain the position. For the time being, let's focus on the former. That is how important it is to land a leadership position with good communication skills. The best example of the power of words is probably that of Barack Obama. I just call him Barack Obama, not President Obama. He was a junior senator from the state of Illinois, and nobody heard of it. But in the year 2000, when John Kerry was the nominee, what year is that? CH?
No.
Okay. Before the Democratic Convention in 2004, hardly anybody knew of it. Then the Democratic nominee John Kerry chose him to be the keynote speaker in that convention. And his speech was so powerful that it immediately drew the attention of the politicians as well as the general American public. And this lays the foundation for his seeking the Democratic nomination in 2008 and subsequently to be the first African American president elected. So if you look at his speech given at the convention, that was the turning point of his career, and that illustrates extremely well the power of words. Now, we all know that when we apply for a job, you have to write a cover letter and attach your resume. Your resume is of the utmost importance, but your cover letter is also very important. If it contains grammatical errors and maybe ill-structured sentences, it gives a big discount to your resume, and you probably would not be able to make the short list. Once you are selected in the short list, then the oral communication skill takes over. When I applied for the department head job here in 1983 or 84, I was fortunate to be shortlisted. It turned out that there are 4 people in the short list. I'm the only one whose native tongue is not English. 2 of the shortlisted candidates were graduates of Cambridge, and they have worked in Hong Kong for quite a while. And then another one was a professor they flown from the UK. So I must have convinced the selection committee and the director of the City Polytechnic, Dr. John at that time, that someone speaking English with a Cantonese accent is more appropriate than someone with no accent, the 3 other gentlemen. And that turns out to be true. So I was elected, and that launched me into what I call the leadership phase of my career, if you like. We'll return to the subject of communication when we talk about organization leadership. Liberal arts education. Students majoring in liberal arts discipline are exposed to subjects dealing with human nature more than engineering students. They also have more chance to learn communication skills. As such, their education prepares them better for leadership. One interesting example is a lady named Kali Fiorina. former president of and CEO of Hewlett Packard. As we all know, HP is a highly technical company. But guess what was the major of Carla Fiorina? Her major was medieval history and philosophy. Okay. As I mentioned before, the bad news is that the bad news for engineers is that liberal arts education prepares one better for leadership than engineering education. The good news is that we engineers can pick up liberal arts education on our own. Now you may ask, we are all very busy, so where do we find the time to pick up this other aspect of education? The second question you may ask is, even if I have the time, what should I read? To these questions, I refer to the suggestion of Dr. Stephen Sample, the author of one of the books that we require the students to read. So in Dr. Stephen Sample's book, there's a chapter entitled "You Are What You Read." Okay. When Dr. Sample wrote his book, he was the president of University of Southern California, a very busy man. But he set aside on the average, he said, 30 minutes a day to read. And he emphasized the importance of spending some time reading what he called super texts. Super texts are books that were written more than 100 years ago, but which are still widely read nowadays. So for example, he gave as examples the Bible, the Annals of Confucius, Plato's Republic, Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, plays of Shakespeare, and Machiavelli's The Prince, among others. You can make up your own list of super texts. But Dr. Sample's point is that the super texts contain some timeless truth about human nature, knowledge of which contributes to effective leadership. Another reason why the knowledge of the super text can be so advantageous for any reader is that the authors of the super texts have proven to be extraordinarily successful wordsmiths. Dr. Sample claimed that in the 10 years when he was president of USC, he spent 30 minutes a day on the average. He had read some 400 books covering a wide range of history, philosophy, religion, novels, biographies, and poetry. Along the way, he had gotten a pretty good liberal education, better than many liberal arts majors. Now, each of us can figure out how to find the time in our schedule to read. I do that when I go shopping with my wife. We went to department stores such as Macy's. I go to a nearby Barnes & Noble bookstore. Now, shown in this slide are a few quotes that I'm fond of. The first one says, "You are what you read." And that is the title of one of the chapters of Dr. Sample's book. It simply sums up that your personality is reflected in what you read. The second quote is from a law professor at University of Mississippi, Don Froge. I invited him to lecture in this leadership class. Among other wisdoms, he told the students to develop the habit of reading, because the more you learn, the more you earn, the more you live. Is that right? And the third quote is from this famous CBS correspondent Mike Wallace, who is an icon in the 60 Minutes magazine, a few years ago when he was near 90, people asked him, why are you still so busy? You know, why don't you retire? So he said, well, retirement is not my vocabulary. I want to grow until I go. So in preparing this part of the lecture, I modify it and say, read and grow until you go. So that's why it says, my voice stroke Kai Fong Lee. Okay. So that should be enough to motivate you to develop the reading habits. All right. The second group of personal leadership qualities. Personal vision, integrity, positive attitude, emotional intelligence. Personal vision. Well, let me give myself as an example. When just like most youngsters, when I was in high school, I didn't know what I want to do, nor was I interested in studying. That all changed when in the last year of high school, a very dynamic teacher in math and physics came to our school. And his teaching is really inspiring and aroused my interest in math and physics. When I found out that he was a graduate of Sun Yat-sen University in electrical engineering, I wanted to study electrical engineering and be a professor. Now later on, he thought of maybe taking a position which has more influence to the institution began to interest me. And this was partly inspired by my PhD mentor, Professor Henry Booker, who moved from Cornell University to the University of California, San Diego, to start a brand new department of electrical engineering. Just like a PhD degree is the terminal degree in a particular field of study, I regarded the Dean of Engineering to be the terminal position for an engineering educator's career. So there are 2 points to this story, which are summarized by these 2 quotes. The first one is, you need a dream if you are going to succeed in anything you do. The second one is, you can see only what you can see. So your dream should be aiming very high, okay? In my case, because I regard the Dean of Engineering to be the terminal position for an engineering educator, I never got beyond that. So I was never called for a president, which are higher up in the academic ledger. So if I had set a goal and said I want to be president, who knows? So remember this, first have a dream. I'll talk about dream a little at the end of my presentation. Then your dream should aim high, because you can see only what you can see. The second thing is integrity. When you have integrity, your words and the deeds match up. Integrity builds trust and inspires confidence in the leader. For example, if you are the owner of a store and you tell the employee to be on time, if you are on time, they will be on time. If you are late, some of them will be on time and some will not. Okay? More importantly, if your followers see that you are not telling the truth, they may feel that they can lie as well. A leader without integrity will ultimately fail. The best known example was that of Richard Nixon. During the Watergate scandal, he famously said on TV that he was not a crook. Then when people found out that he was indeed a crook, he was facing impeachment, and he had to resign. I have another story to tell. There was a Dr. K who was department head at one of the universities in Ohio. Later on, he moved to another university in Ohio and became dean. Probably the search committee did not check the references very well. But anyway, Dr. K, we just call him Dr. K. He was energetic and very clever. However, he had a habit of lying to people with a straight face. Also, I don't know whether you watch Donald Trump's program. Like Donald Trump, this guy likes to fire people. So he created an atmosphere of mistrust and fear in the College of Engineering. However, as I said, he was clever and he was energetic. He cultivated the board of trustees well, and 4 years later, he was appointed the president of the university, although a lot of faculty objected. So he was appointed president, but 17 months later, he was fired. The board of trustees finally realized that he had no integrity and had done considerable harm to the university. Unfortunately, this realization was several years late. An article in the Chronicle of Higher Education reporting his firing stated that, quote, his brief presidency has left the university reeling as he tries to recover from what some observers on campus characterizes as a near dismantling of the institution. If you're interested in the details, I can provide more. So Dr. K was able to fool people for a while, but he became the laughing stock of the higher education community. So that's another example of integrity. Positive attitude. A psychologist by the name of William James said, the greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitude of mind. Let's illustrate this with a story. Remember the 4-minute mile, running a mile under 4 minutes. People have been trying to achieve this since the days of the ancient Greeks. Folklore has that the Greeks have lions chase the runners, thinking that will make them run faster. They also tried drinking tiger's milk. Nothing they tried worked. So they decided it was impossible for a person to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. And over 1,000 years, everyone believed it. Our bone structure is not strong enough. Wind resistance is too great. We have inadequate lung power. There were a million reasons. Then one man, his name is Roger Bannister, on May 6, 1954, proved that the doctors, the trainers, and the millions of runners before him who tried and failed were all wrong. So he ran a mile in 3 minutes, 57 seconds. And then a year after that, 37 other runners broke the 4-minute mile. The year after that, 300 runners broke the 4-minute mile. And then a few years later, in a race in New York, 13 out of 13 runners broke the 4-minute mile. In other words, the person who ended up the last in that race was achieving something which was regarded as impossible just a few decades ago. So what happened? There were no great breakthroughs in running. No one discovered how to control wind resistance. Human bone structure and physiology didn't suddenly improve, but human attitudes did. So having a positive attitude, as the psychologist said, seems to be able to alter the accomplishments and their lives. Having positive attitude is also essential in effectively dealing with hardships and adversity. When encountering problems, it's helpful to remember that problems give meaning to life. As the saying goes, if you want the rainbow, you've got to put up with the rain. There was a study of some 300 successful people, and they found that a quarter of them have handicaps. The most famous ones were probably Franklin Roosevelt, who could not walk, and Stephen Hawking, this famous physicist. And some were born in poverty. Oprah Winfrey was one example. And some were born in broken homes or grew up in broken homes. The famous actor Gary Grant was one example. And even Bill Clinton was brought up in a broken home. They turned their stumbling blocks into stepping stones. Now we come to something called emotional intelligence. This is supposed to be something discovered not very long ago by a person named Daniel Goleman. He has an article called What Makes a Leader, published in the Harvard Business Review. He studied the successful people, and he found that having high IQ is not enough. And there's another thing called emotional intelligence that successful people all seem to possess. So what is emotional intelligence? It's a set of skills that capture our awareness of our own emotions and the emotions of others, and how we use this awareness to manage ourselves effectively and form quality relationships. The 4 emotional intelligence skills pair up under 2 primary competencies, personal competence and social competence. Actually, this is known a long time in China. The first one, self-competence, is 知己, and then social competence is 知彼. So our Xunzi has said that 知彼知己,百戰百勝. And now this fellow came up and seemed to say he discovered something. Emotional intelligence is very important for successful people. But Xunzi has said it 2,500 years ago. So this article, I'm not joking, is a required reading for the Harvard Business School students. I believe Xunzi Bingfang is also a required reading. Okay, I think that is all under, I said social competent people tend to have a sense of humor. And a sense of humor helps us to get through dull times, cope with difficult times, enjoy the good times, and manage the scary times. Now, let's talk about the series of actions that lead an organization to success. Many of these things are obvious, so I may cut short on some of these. The first one is build a strong team. This fellow Machiavelli said the first method for estimating the intelligence of a leader is look at the man he has run. Now, the best leadership position is a position that you can have the freedom to build your team from scratch. Those positions are rare, but sometimes they do happen. One example is, come back to my PhD mentor, Professor Henry Booker. He was a professor at Cornell, but then he went to University of California, San Diego to start a brand new department. This campus was located in La Jolla, California, a very beautiful part in California with nice beaches and near the Pacific Ocean. The weather is probably one of the best in the country. All seasons are spring-like. And Professor Booker probably is given a lot of resources. So he was able to attract the a group of first-rate professors to the department very quickly. For example, Victor Ramsey, the inventor of frequency-independent antennas. So this department should know about Victor Ramsey. He came from Berkeley. And Erwin Jacob, a communication expert, who later started the Qualcomm in San Diego. And also Hans Alfred, a Nobel Prize physics winner. So the department very quickly became one of the strong departments in the US. I also had the rare opportunities to start a new department, and this is this department here. And I hired Dr. Edward Young, who was an Ole Miss graduate, and Professor Locke. And I actually interviewed Professor K.F. Mann. By the time, well, I didn't really, I interviewed him and then I left, okay? But then I recommended him to my successor, Barry Jeffries. So Professor Mann came on board, and as you know, these three guys served as department head of this department for 6 years each.
Not yet proposal, just 3.
Oh, okay. And this department has established a solid reputation not only in Asia but in the world. So these two examples amply illustrate the importance of building a strong team. The next thing is articulate a shared vision, plan and prioritize. Henry Kissinger said, if you do not know where you are going, every road will get you nowhere. So most organizations have something called a strategic plan. A strategic plan will start with a vision statement which tells what the organization aspires to be. And then there's a mission statement that says how to get there. And then it comes after that, goals and objectives. These are more specific. So from more general and then becoming more specific. If you look at the vision statement, it is something that speaks to the aspiration of the organization. In other words, the destination, the desired future, often 10 to 20 years horizon. The mission statement is the path to get there. So vision is what, mission is how. It goes from the present state to the future state, and this is the bridge, the mission. I take an example from this department. So if you go to the department website, you have the vision statement, which is rather general, but it aspires what the department wants to become, a leading department of its kind in the world. And then the mission statement spells out the ways you can get there. I have no time to go into the other components of a strategic plan, but it is probably interesting to look at a couple more vision statements. Amazon. Our vision is to be the Earth's most customer-centric company. to build a place where people can come to find and discover anything they might want to buy online. Walt Disney Company, very simple, to make people happy. And then Mayo Clinic, this is a very famous health clinic in the States. It says it will provide an unparalleled experience as the most trusted partner for health care. Again, you got to have the aspiration, so the people want to rally behind it. Communication and mission. This is interesting. There's a reason why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So you should not just talk, but you should also listen to your followers. So when I either become a department head or a dean, in addition to articulating what I want the department or school to be, I also have one-on-one meetings with the faculty to listen. It doesn't mean you accept all of what they tell you. Smart leaders believe only half what they hear. But it's important that you hear. So the ear of the leader must ring with the voices of the people. I guess I would not elaborate too much because of time. The idea is that a two-way communication is very important, not just one-way communication. Two-way communication will create an atmosphere of trust and not mistrust. Lead by example. Setting example is not the main means of influencing others. It is the only means. That's what Albert Einstein said. So for example, when I was a graduate student, the professors in our group is very productive, so I feel I should also be productive. And it's really influenced by their examples. When I became a faculty, this urge continues. Even when I become a department head or a dean, I kept up with my research. So when the faculty sees you doing research, they have no excuse except to try their best. Okay. I also have a habit of working part of the weekends, usually Saturday morning or Sunday afternoon. So a few years after I assumed the deanship at Mississippi, people told me that the parking lot is more full during weekends compared to my predecessor. So this is just some trivial examples of setting example. Develop leaders is not just how many leaders followers one has, it is also how many leaders one has created among them. The more leadership in the ranks, the more effective is one's own. So if you take, for example, the dean position, hopefully your department chairs will follow your example and will be a good leader. So you should provide them with the necessary resources, and you should listen to them. You should tell the people that the department have your confidence, and so forth. Now, having said that, it's still easier said than done, because sometimes you have to remove department heads if they are not performing. In my experience in Mississippi, I had to remove, out of 6 department heads, I had to remove 3 of them, but I was able to develop 2 of them into real good leaders. In fact, one of them, I'll call him Dr. C, he's also Chinese, he became my successor. And when I was appointed dean, my professors, my friends in Missouri And Ohio said they couldn't believe it because Mississippi is a very conservative state in the deep South. And how they would hire someone with a totally different background and look completely different. So they were amazed. But when Dr. C was chosen as the successor, as I say, he's also Chinese, so I joked with my friends and said, my proudest accomplishment in Mississippi is that I established the Chinese dynasty. Okay. So much for development leaders. Seize opportunities and take risks. A ship is always safe ashore, but that is not what it is built for. People who play it safe continuously miss the opportunities and seldom make progress. Okay, I will just give an example. When I became dean at Ole Miss, I was aware that the undergraduate student to teacher ratio in our college is the lowest. And also, the professor told me they need more space. And looking at the situation of the physical space, it is obvious to me that in addition to acquiring more space, we also have to make some of them more attractive. So we launched a ambitious campaign to have a new engineering complex, and then to raise funds in order to achieve that. That is a pretty risky undertaking because if it is successful, then obviously it would change the face of engineering at Ole Miss. But if I fail, I will forever be remembered for that failure. So I would now also use that as an example for teamwork. Once we decided to have the new engineering complex, then I have to convince the upper administration, namely the provost and the chancellor, that this is indeed what we need to do. And when they agree, when they become on board, then it's a teamwork between the upper administration, the dean of engineering and his office, the public relations department, and also the alumni, represented by a committee chaired by two co-chairs. So this is a team that try to accomplish their task. So we meet regularly, we have telephone conference calls with the alums, we identify potential donors, and then we make trips to cultivate them and so forth. So it involves a whole team. We also, at the outset, prepare a very nice brochure telling everybody where we are and how we go from there. And that is a PR material, and it starts with these three leaders, the chancellor, the provost, and the vice chancellor for public relations. We have a nice picture of them, and each one says something good about this campaign, okay? I said something here which I can't read. But anyway, we started with this nice picture with the nice support statements, and I refer to this trio as the Trinity. So I told people that when we have the Trinity behind us, there's no way we can fail. Okay. Unfortunately, we launched this engineering campaign in the summer of 2001. But then in September 2001, you know what happened. There's the 9/11 tragic event. The US economy dived, and it's not a very good time to raise funds, to ask people for money. So there is a number of years where the campaign looks pretty green, but we persevered. And finally, in the fall of 2008, I was able to write on the biannual engineering newsletter the following. So, quote, the school had just acquired about 12,000 square feet of research laboratory space in the former Walmart building across Jackson Avenue. The renovation of the old chemistry building to be used exclusively for engineering is scheduled for completion about a year from now. By the end of summer 2010, we anticipate the completion of a new building to house the Center for Manufacturing Excellence. We are also planning for the renovation expansion of Carrier Hall, which should be completed by August 2010. End of quote. The projects were completed as planned, increasing the space of the School of Engineering by 140%. Undergraduate enrollment has been steadily increasing every year, with no sign of leveling yet. The importance of perseverance is nicely summarized in these two quotes. It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. So we went really slowly in the engineering campaign, but we did not stop. Many of life's failures, people did not realize how close they were to success when they give up. Okay, what do you mean by get along with your boss and know which hill you're willing to die on? I'll use an example. The first part is obvious. If you are a department head, you better get along with your dean. If you are a dean, you better get along with your provost. It doesn't work, you know, if you can't get along with your boss, you cannot be effective. Now, some people don't believe that, but
get rid of the boss.
So I'll give you an example of what I mean by a hill you are willing to die. Let me go back to the engineering campaign. When we decide to have the new engineering complex, okay, when I got to Old Miss, there's an old building called the Old Chemistry Building, which was occupied by the graduate school, the Office of Research, and some units of engineering. The provost agreed, because of the plan for the new engineering complex, to give us the whole building and move the Office of Research and the graduate school out when we are ready to renovate the building. But when we are ready, the Vice Chancellor for Research had second thought. She wanted to stay in the building. Okay? So that means she's going to take away a lot of our space. So I was faced with what to do. If I agree to that, then we will lose a lot of space, and our plan for the new engineering complex will suffer a great blow. Not only that, because I have been telling our constituents, faculty, students, staff, alumni, industrial partners, that that building is our building, and now it's not, then I will lose the trust of all these people. So I told the provost that I don't agree with that, and under no circumstances would I agree to this change of mind of the Vice Chancellor for Research. And I made it very clear that if she insisted, she will have to deal with another dean. So then there's the hill that I'm willing to die on. Okay, that's an example. Fortunately, the provost supported me, and then took a lot of effort to convince the Vice Chancellor for Research to move out. So she did move out eventually. And shortly after that, the old chemistry building was renamed the Brevard building, because this guy Brevard gave a lot of money for its renovation. And in fact, the old chemistry building, now called the Brevard building, is now the premier building of engineering, with a magnificent dean's office on the second floor, looking over the nicest part of the campus. When Dr. Leung and Professor Leung and Professor Look visited there, they were not ready yet. So now if you go there, it's completely different. Okay, I think I was, okay, just very briefly. This is probably the most difficult, most tiring, but very important part is to evaluate the performance of your lieutenants. You have to give a complete and frank evaluation at least once a year. Keep in mind that everyone wants to feel worthwhile, so encouragement brings out the best in people. However, it has to be truthful, so you have to confront issues. When you confront issues, this guy Maxwell gives some guidelines which he called the 10 commandments of confrontation. I'll just read a couple of them. Do it privately, not publicly. Do it as soon as possible. Speak to one issue at a time. Once you have made a point, don't keep repeating it. So I won't bother going through the rest. Now, I include a list of questions, hopefully to stimulate your interest to read more on this subject. Now, as I said, leadership is an art and not science. So any answer you choose can be correct, okay? So although I said true and false, I guess it should just be what is your answer. And then you can compare with what the authors of these books claim. So let's just read a couple of them. People's minds are changed more through arguments than through observation. Is it true or is it false? You can choose either one. And then if you're interested, you can go to the book and see what this guy says. Similarly, if you are the CEO of a company and your background is in engineering, you should always follow the recommendation of an expert in financial affairs when a decision on the budget of your company has to be made. Is that true or false? Once you have chosen an answer, you can go to this chapter and compare with what this guy said. So if you're interested, send me an email. I'll send you the questions. Okay. I got 10 of them. Human nature has changed considerably since the days when Machiavelli published The Prince. True or false? Something like that. Okay, now concluding remarks, because I thought I can do it in 1 hour. It's now over 1 hour. Okay, concluding remarks. I have a few remarks mainly for the students. Oh, I have a few concluding remarks, okay, for students in the audience. I believe I have in this lecture gathered some recollection which hopefully illustrated some guidelines for leadership. There are many things that I have missed, or you may disagree with much of what I said. If I have aroused your interest in pursuing the subject further, this hour has not been wasted. I should add that even as a student, there are opportunities to practice your leadership skills in the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, in student societies, and in community services. Finally, as I said at the beginning, leadership is an art and not a science. I now close this lecture in a non-scientific way with a poem. This poem is by the American poet Edwin Markham, and it is about having a dream in one's youth and seeing the dream come true in old age. So that is his poem in English. And then at my request, my brother, I don't think anyone here knows my brother. He said I don't have to acknowledge him if no one he knows in the audience. But I'm going to acknowledge him anyway. At my request, my brother translate this poem into Chinese. So let's read it in English. Great it is to believe the dream, And we stand in youth by the starry stream. But the greater thing is to live life through and say at the end, the dream came true. So in Chinese, I like this Chinese version better because my brother translated. 少壯起尋夢，觀星溪水奔，老年回首望，中國夢成真，祝各位夢想成真。
Thank you for Sunny for the any questions?
One quick comment and one question. It's not really difficult. The comment is that you have not mentioned about this Stephen Sample.
Yeah.
He graduated from Illinois.
Oh, no wonder Professor Chen is such a great leader.
And did you look for Henry Brooker, or Henry Brooker look for you? When you go for, because you were his student, right?
Yeah.
But you graduated from Queens, if I remember right?
Right. Well, he didn't know who I was, and he didn't care who I was. So, so the answer is, I look for him.
So why did you look for? Study under Henry Brooker.
Well, he has a big name, right? This is reputation. Actually, he moved to San Diego, and then when I finished, I stayed at Cornell. I finished my PhD. I wrote to him, and then he offered me a job as a postdoc in UC San Diego in his department, which was the second year in its formation. I was the first postdoc in that department. There was a picture that they took of the faculty. There were some 8 or 10. That includes Rumsey and then Erwin Jacob. And I was the only postdoc. They also took pictures of the graduate students. They didn't know where to put me. So finally, they put me at the corner of that picture of the faculty. So I still have that picture with the faculty, and I'm at the corner all by myself. So I don't know whether I answer your question.
Was your PhD under Henry Brooker?
Yes and no. But my dissertation, when I started my dissertation, is gone. So actually, I picked my own topic. I did it all by myself. Okay? So I really cannot claim to be his student. But he was my committee chair for 2 years until I began to study my research. I started my research. But I did go to his department as a postdoc. I didn't really work mainly under him, but we ended up with one paper with 3 names. So the only paper I have with Professor Booker is one paper.
So it's similar to KM, right? His PhD was supposed to be
even worse.
No, supposed to be with your professor, right? But he died, and then you have to do yourself.
Yeah, it's very similar because he also finished his stuff more or less on his own.
But I got the project for myself.
Right, but the difference is I had to find the topic myself. In fact, I was so worried. So I still remember the Christmas before I graduated. I was still searching for a topic. And then all of a sudden I found a topic myself. 2 months later, I was already writing a paper. The guy who became my advisor actually didn't do anything. I had to explain to him what I did. And first he said, "Oh, that's not enough, you know." I said, "What do you mean? I have written 3 papers."
I think this is good for a student to know this. If you want to be a great leader, you have to find a topic yourself. This is a good example. Don't blame your supervisor, right? If you can't do anything, right?
But anyway, if you don't get anything from this lecture, remember, what is that?
What you
and grow.
Read and grow until you go. And then this poem, not the English one, the Chinese one. Okay, so hopefully when you're like me, 老年回首望，中國夢成真。
Just a quick question. This is a very enjoyable presentation. I'm glad that you shared that with us. I wonder.
Sorry, I interrupt. I spend much more time preparing this type of lecture than an antenna lecture.
I thought this comes naturally now from you.
Okay.
Because you have all this experience working with many, can you easily spot leaders from a group, from a crowd of faculty, or from a group of students?
Well, you have to spend some time with them, right? I think so. I think so. As I say, like this guy who succeeded me, I spotted him pretty early on that he would be a good leader. So that's why I can establish a Chinese dynasty. That's not an easy accomplishment. You're from Michigan, but you know the South is very conservative, and in fact, as I said, people were surprised. Why would they hire a Chinese to be a dean? And now the second Chinese. But to answer your question, I believe so, but of course not immediately. But you can tell very quickly. As I say, I can only say of the 6 department chairs there, I think 2 are really good ones. The other ones are, just my managers. What was the 2 sentences about managers?
climbing up the ladder.
Yeah, they know how to climb up a ladder, but they may not know where to put the ladder. So it's a lot of fun for me to search those quotes. If you want a copy, either of the slides or what, just email me. And then if you are interested in those questions, by all means. Oh, are you interested in some quotes of Machiavelli? This guy who is known as the devil. Okay, maybe just read a couple for fun, since people are still sitting down. Okay, the first one, if an injury has to be done to a man, it should be so severe that his vengeance need not be feared. Okay, this one is interesting. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and a fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. Very perceptive. And then I don't know whether you like this about human nature. Men are so simple of mind and so much dominated by the immediate needs that a deceitful man will always find plenty who are ready to be deceived. Let's see. This one about human nature is really bad. Of mankind, we may say in general they are fickle, hypocritical, and greedy or gay. So that's why his nickname is the devil. Nick the Devil. However, in Dr. Sample's book, have you read Dr. Sample's book? It's very entertaining reading. There's a chapter entitled "Give the Devil His Due." So the devil is Machiavelli. So Dr. Sample is saying that he's not really a devil. Give him his due, because, as I said at the beginning, what he is doing is he recognizes the reality of human nature. Human nature is not all what confuses or Plato says. Okay. Thank you so much. As I say, students always complain Friday afternoon. In fact, that course was 3 o'clock. Now it's 6:30, and you are still here. I can't imagine a better audience.
Because I think give you this small souvenir, also as a small comment. I think to be a good technical leader like Professor Lee, you can not only read technical paper, read more other things like. Am I right?
Read and grow until you go. ask my wife. I go to Barnes and Noble when she goes to Macy. Okay? Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay, thank you for that.
出幹嘛？你最傾兩句先。朱耀祥幹嘛？朱耀祥出嘛？出嘛？
Oh, okay. Right? Can you say it to me? You have my email. Yeah, send it to me. Yeah. I'll show it to my brother. How do you like this translation? Okay, please tell me how to do it. Yeah.
我幫你揸機。
你未見過啦，你就
我哋咁嘅影相相就係啦。
即係唔得。
我一張先，一張先，一張先。可以除咗啦。
呢度咧係有啲光啊。
熄咗你啦。
得啦。
做乜去翻嗰個第一個畫面啊 ？OK 啊？
早期啊，神畫面。
咩笑啊？
嘿，你哋個仔仔出咗世未？
未啊，10月。
10月而家幾月？仲有3個月。
係啊。
囡囡好得意啦，同你一模一樣係咪？
我都係講啦，叫埋你睇，我都係講。
誒，叫埋你喎。
Hello。
你依家先嚟啊？
唔係啊，梗係。咪先嚟一早嚟
因為開之前見唔到你。
哎呀，知道，係啦，啱啱講完。
呢邊先，呢邊先啦。
問乜嘅？
第1、2、3，我哋嗰張。
今日你頭覺得你食？
我今晚我唔嚟。
做啊？冇一張先 ，OK。預備1、
嗰啲舊學生，中大，好。
中大嗰陣時，你上一次見你係中大10幾年前，跟住我去可能學高嘅。
好耐咯，10幾年知唔知啊？
邊個？
咁啊唔識啊！
你聽晏晝做嘅。
聽日晏晝。今晚唔係啊，我個 sister 嚟咗嚇，佢啱啱今朝嚟咗。
佢喺美高，佢喺中大讀。
同佢哋繼續啦。我專登翻嚟支持下，睇下冇乜新。
你知 Amy 生咗個女啊？
我聽佢講過，係我
睇到 video 啦。
我睇 video 啊。
幾大個而家？
就嚟1歲。
哦。